Hello, lovelies. Welcome to the GraveTells podcast, pimping book boyfriends on GraveTells.com since 2010.
Give me some more, get on the floor, come on, keep dancing, I'll show you what.
Welcome to episode 4 of the GraveTells Romance podcast. This episode is sponsored by Heretic Games in San Bruno, California. GraveTells Romance and Heretic Games have teamed up to sponsor a special giveaway for one local listener on today's episode. To enter to win, you'll need a special secret code that I'll reveal later in today's podcast, so stay tuned for that. Let's meet today's featured guests. In this episode, we have 2 must-read romance authors, Vivien Jackson and Tamsin Lay. Tamsin builds contemporary fantasy worlds full of beguiling mermen and sexy centaurs. And Vivien Jackson writes fantastical, futuristic, down-home, salacious kissery. So let's get this party started and meet Vivien Jackson and Tamsin Lay. Vivien, Tamsin, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited about this podcast.
Hey.
Glad to be here.
So we're all gamer chicks. Like, I met both of you guys separately. I don't know if you've met each other yet before this. Have you met each other before this recording?
No.
Hello.
Oh, this should be fun. Great.
Yeah, hi there.
Lots of things you don't know about each other. So there should be some spontaneous fun, which is also very exciting. I met you both at RWA in person. I think we might have had some conversations before. And what I loved was that we were able to talk about gaming and not confuse each other, right? Like, even if we didn't play the same games, it didn't matter because there's this bond that gamer girls especially have with one another. I say gamer girls, we're women, clearly. I don't mean this as a derogatory term. It's just sort of like, it sounds good. It rolls, right? Like gamer girls. But I love just like randomly chatting about World of Warcraft or whatever it was that we got off on the topics of. So we're going to cover a ton of topics today about gaming in specific, women in gaming a little bit, and then of course gaming in romance, because there's this sort of micro trend that I've seen lately, and it may not even be a micro trend. Randomly, I got invited to vote on a list of romance books with gamers in them, and I'm like, that is the most appropriate thing ever because I'm recording that podcast tomorrow. So thank you. So apparently there's more books out there than I knew, which is super exciting because I really, really love gaming characters. I can totally relate to them. So let's dive right in and talk about some memorable moments in games that we have had and why we love gaming so much. So I know, Tamsin, you play D&D, is that right?
Yeah, we did for years and years as a family thing, back starting before my husband and I were married. It was kind of a date night for us. So, yeah.
So you have way more experience than I do when it comes to D&D. But honestly, I played like 2 or 3 times ever. It's really hard for me to get into because there's so much setup. So once you get into a campaign and you got your team and you have your dynamics and you understand the nuance of your dungeon master, it's easier to just step in and play. But every time I do it, it's like different people and I have the setup, and the setup of the character takes forever, and it's like, oh my God, I just want to play a game. But when I get to actually play it, my favorite thing to play in pretty much any game is a caster. I love casters. I'm all about blowing shit up, right? So like, give me a mage, right? Let me throw some fireballs.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Say either that or a healer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why that is. Do I just like to be away from the action? I
think I do because I feel really clumsy, even in the game.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Just don't put me there.
Well, I can't move
Right.
as nimbly.
That's why I can't play paladins, because there's no ranged spells, right?
There
You
are
have to
in
be
Warcraft.
right there in the middle of it, and then
Yeah, I think I'm afraid of dying.
yeah, right. I hate tanking.
You hate what?
it.
Yeah.
Tanking.
Oh, tanking.
Tanking. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I get really nervous. I can do it, but I have to be real comfortable with the scenario, or I'm just a wreck.
Yeah. Well, for D&D, once we moved past the college level stuff that we were playing, my husband and I, all we had was our family. And so we found another couple that gamed, and I ended up being the GM for those games.
Nice.
So I kind of liked that awesome power, so I got to boss people around and create fun things. And so we had a lot of fun with that.
So for people who are not familiar with D&D, what is the DM?
God.
Dungeon Master. Or Game Master. Sometimes people call them Game Master or Dungeon Master, GM or DM. So the person that runs the game, who knows the ending, and so runs the NPCs, all of that kind of stuff. And NPCs are non-player characters, for those of you out there who are not gamers.
I think we're going to have to do a lot of translating. In fact, we have a whole section on that. A whole section on decoding gamer language. And maybe we'll do a quiz.
Well, yeah, and you know, we did... Go ahead, Viv.
Oh, I was just going to say the game master is also kind of the outliner of the story, and then the players fill in the details. So, like for people who are used to collaborative writing, you know, the game master creates the structure, and then the players insert all of the twists.
Right. It's like a pick your own adventure kind of thing almost. And so, you know, the game master knows what the dungeon looks like and knows that if they turn left, they're going to run into orcs, and if they turn right, that, you know, they're going to fall into a swamp and whatever. So...
Do you find as an author, it's more fun, more creative for you to be the DM or one of the players?
Like I said, I liked being the DM. But I'm a type A personality a little bit. So, and I honestly, you know, the thing about a D&D game versus online is that being the DM, I got to create fun things. So, we would be sitting around the table and I would get to create, I would have handouts and things for them, because beforehand I was one of these preppers. And so I would take pages and I would soak them in, you know, write on them and whatever, and then soak them in tea and crumple them up and make them look all old, and then be like, whip it out from my bag and say, and you find this magic, you know, scroll, blah, blah, blah. I was one of those.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, it was fun. And part of it was because we were playing with my kids too, as they grew older. And so to keep their interest was always, you know, a challenge. And so they liked it when I would pull out the surprises like that.
What about you, Viv? Do you prefer playing or DM?
I've done both. I think it sort of also depends on your storytelling style, right? I'm more of a character kind of storyteller, and my husband's more of a plot puzzle kind of storyteller. So he just naturally fits into the game master role better than I do, and then I try to break it for him. So
I love it.
I think I'm probably the least popular team member ever on a player team in D&D, because I'm a big fan of AoE, and unlike in a game like World of Warcraft, where there's no friendly fire, in D&D, I guess depending on your personal rules, but where I've played, when I AoE, it actually hurts my teammates. And that was something I didn't know at first, but then once I figured it out, I just kept doing it anyway, because I was like, well, yeah, the benefit's probably worth the damage. You guys are fine. Somebody can heal you.
Oh my God.
Because I really just want to AoE things, so maybe not the best teammate for D&D.
I think I might understand why you liked being a caster more now. Stand back, blow everything up.
Seriously, I play mage. In World of Warcraft, mage is my favorite character. Priest is my second favorite. And then behind that, there's some other... Because, you know, everybody has like 10 characters in World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah.
But mage is like my heart, right? Like, that's the thing I always come back to, and I identify with the undead mage, even though I don't get to play that anymore because we switched servers, which is a whole other story. But the undead mage is like the soul of my gaming, right? So, and my mage is always fire. I don't care what the trend is. I don't care what the top raid performing, if it's, you know, arcane or frost. I don't care. I'm a fire mage. Always a fire mage. And that tree has so much AoE in it. Even now, after they've distributed some of it, it's like you literally can just blow things up for 5 minutes. It's amazing. It's my favorite thing. It's so like, it's like all the problems I have in the world, I can funnel them into this character and just blow up a bunch of orcs, you know?
Oh, funny. Because I had on WoW, one of my favorite characters, I had a gnome mage, and she was an aquaholic, by the way. And she was a frost mage, but I liked it because I liked to freeze them far away from me. That was my thing, like, stay away!
I'm very kamikaze. My husband plays a healer. He's a shaman. Well, he's elemental, but he's also a really good healer. He ends up healing as much as doing damage because it's so hard to find good healers in raids. And so I'll have him just back up heal me, and I'll like run myself into a giant group of mobs and just AoE everything. And he's just like chain healing me. It's like the most fun thing I can do. I'm not sure how fun he thinks it is, but he does laugh at me. So it's, you know.
It's so cathartic to just kill things.
Speaking of killing things.
Good times.
So last night, I don't know. I don't know why. Guys, I haven't logged into WoW in like 6 months at least, maybe closer to a year. In fact, I thought that my subscription might have been on pause. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe I've been paying $15 a month and just haven't logged in because, I might, right? I might want to log in and then I don't want to have to set it up. So I'll just keep going. Maybe I'll turn it off next month. So I thought maybe at some point I turned it off, but I probably didn't. So then I log into WoW and then I realize I haven't turned it off. Oh, I have been paying all this time. Well, okay, I guess I'm going to play the game. So I log into the game. I think I don't want to go into my high-end characters. I don't want to do anything that has a history. I want to start with a baby. I want to do something mindless. So I made a human paladin, which is a character I would never play because I don't play the human race. I like the ones that are fantasy. If you're going to do fantasy.
Same.
Yeah. So I made a human paladin, a male, and I named him after one of Tamsin's characters.
Oh, okay.
Because I just read the Merman's Quest. You're going to have to help me with the pronunciation. Is it Ruback?
Yep, that's right.
And I really enjoyed this guy. I mean, he was sort of like, he's in this bad spot. He's got to kill this girl or he's going to die. Like, it's part of his quest, right? And he felt so bad about it, but it was like, well, it's me or her, and okay, I'm just going to do it. And then at every step of the way, he keeps like, it's very paladin mentality. It's very like, what's the right thing to do? What must I do? And I thought, okay, this guy would be a great Ruback. And also because every name in WoW is taken for like everything. And so if you want a normal name, you have to misspell it or use some like funky tilde character. You know what? It wasn't taken. There wasn't a Ruback. So now there is a Ruback on this Cenarian Circle RP server.
That is awesome.
Right.
Now I want to get on Cenarian Circle and just find him.
Well, he's in Goldshire, so I can meet you and we can pretend to trade something. So I will share a screenshot of that with you. I actually promoted it a little bit. I did a Facebook Live before this just to give people a peek, and that was what was on my screen in the back. So unfortunately, he doesn't have like the green fin or green hair or anything like that. He looks like I made him a ginger. I'm a ginger, so I made him a ginger. I felt like it was fitting.
Yeah. Well, it'd be kind of hard to be a paladin with a green tail.
That might be. I was thinking, are there any games that have like merfolk as playable characters?
I can't think of any. I always thought it would be really fun to play a Naga or something.
Yeah,
though,
like the WoW expansion where it was all underwater and you had that seahorse mount.
Right?
Yes. Oh, that
It
was
was
fun.
fun.
And
That was
frustrating.
fun.
And frustrating.
Frustrated. Yeah, because like suddenly we're 3D. Yeah, it was hard.
It was hard. It was hard to find your way around, and everything was so vast.
Yeah, well, they did a good job making it feel like the ocean.
Did. That's true. I had a really good time, but I don't want to play it again. It has like no replayability for me. But you know what I do want? I want my seahorse mount. I want to be able to use that thing not in that area.
Yes.
Actually, yes. Yeah.
It's like the AK bugs, like the ones you can use in the Temple of Encourage, I think is what it's called. The little scarab beetle things that you can ride. I want to ride that outside.
Oh, right.
But there's like only one and you
Yeah.
had to get it from opening the gates or something like that. So like one person per server in the world has this mount. It's sort of ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have to make something special.
That's true. Okay. So we talked about D&D. Talked about WoW some. I think we should probably talk about gaming language because we have used some of it already and we might have accidentally confused some people. So I've cheated a little bit because you guys have seen a list, but you are welcome to throw your own out. I'm going to go through a list. Just shout it out if you know the answer, which you probably do. If you don't, it's okay. So this will help people understand what we mean when we say certain things. Okay. Ready?
All right.
All right. MMO.
Massive multiplayer online.
Yes. Which is things like WoW, EverQuest. I don't know. I can't think of any more because I just play WoW. Lineage.
Star Wars. Star Wars.
Star Wars: The Old Republic. Yeah.
Yep.
Lord of the Rings online. Played that.
That's right.
Is that fun?
It's frustrating for me because I'm used to better graphics and I'm used to smoother movement, and so I was almost getting motion sick at one point because it kind of has that sticky feeling,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
And also, I'm a huge Tolkien geek, so it was weird to see things that I know very well thrown around kind of casually.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. That would bother me. Yeah.
Now, Tamsin, do you play Star Wars?
I
you like
have,
it?
yep. Yeah, it was kind of a nice. I played Star Wars when I took a break from WoW, because you play their expansion out, and then you're like, kind of done here, and they don't have a new one coming out, so I would swap to Star Wars. And it was fun, and I love Star Wars.
Did you
so.
feel like having so many Jedi around detracted from the atmosphere of the world?
Well, no, because when you're playing that game, you expect that you're running around with heroes,
Yeah,
right?
true.
So I mean, it's not like you're playing one of these games. It's not like there's going to be a whole lot of just people that don't have powers.
True. Yeah.
Because everybody wants to be the one that has
Yeah, that's
powers.
true.
And also in the storytelling timeline, it was way before the third movie, that horrible thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Horrible thing.
Yes, the thing that shall not be named. Yes.
The thing, yes, right. But so in the story world, there are lots of Jedi, so it's long before the end of the Jedis, right? So it makes sense to have a whole bunch of running around, and I love it because it's Bioware, so you can give your companions presents, and then they really, really like you, and sometimes they propose marriage just because you give them lots of presents.
Oh, I know. I loved that too. That was fun. It's like which you'd build a new character and you'd be like, all right, which one am I going to romance?
Oh my God. Speaking of romance in games, my husband and I actually met in World of Warcraft. Straight up, I was starting a new guild. This is the original closed beta. There was one server. One.
Wow, back when it was just an Ironforge?
Yeah,
Is that what it was?
we
Yeah.
played I don't even know if I went to Ironforge at that point. I started off as a Night Elf rogue. I think the level cap was 39, and there was a priest did some AoE spell, and we thought she was a mage because we didn't know the difference because we were newbies. But as beta went on, I was in a guild, and I was part of the leadership structure, and I didn't like the way they were leading it, and I decided I wanted my own guild. So I got a guild charter, and I was just randomly in general chat in the Barrens of all places. I'm advertising that I need signatures on my guild charter. And this random dude comes up and he says, I'll sign. I have a friend who will sign too. Wait here. So I'm like, okay, my undead mage self is not going anywhere. I will stay here and wait for you. And so he goes off and another guy comes up, whispers me and says, where are you? And I say, oh, yeah, I'm here. I'm standing in front of blah. And the name was Lelu, Lelu. And I was like, oh, it's a chick. Okay, cool.
Right.
I'm expecting a female character. No, this giant ass Tauren steps up in front of me. The ceremonial thing is coming off the horn and everything. And he's Lelu because he loves the Fifth Element. That's his favorite movie. And so he signed my guild charter, and that was the beginning. And we led the guild together for 7 years, built it up to be one of the rating with the top rating guilds on the server, which is sort of towing the casual line, so you could be a raider and you could get in the end game content, but you could also have a life, right? And have friendly people. We weren't all assholes in the guild.
Yeah.
And we had a guild get together in New Orleans right before Katrina. It was the summer before Katrina hit, and we just hit it off. At first sight, it was a total connection, the kind you read about in romance books, and that was it. 6 months later, he had moved to Texas, and we were in Austin together. And then a few years later, we moved to California, which is where he's from, and that's where I live now.
That's so romantic.
Wow.
So very cool. And you know what? We never got married in game. What? How did we not get married in game?
Then you are not officially married.
Right. We have to go back and gather all our old guild members and be like, no, come back for one day so we're going to raid the Temple of Elune as Horde, and we're going to get married there after killing all the guards. That's what's going to
Yes. Yes.
You have to buy all the outfits on the auction house and the flowers and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Gotta have the
transmog
whole thing.
all of your gear, because you can't go in an actual cloth outfit. If you're a paladin, you must have plate in case you have to fight hard.
True. Yeah. Oh no, respawn.
Right.
Yeah.
And then all of the city is trying to kill you at that point. A funeral, not a wedding, really. Okay. More terms. IRL.
In real life.
Yes. BRB.
Be right back.
Be right back. What's a raid? Really? Sure, guys, come on. What's a raid?
Well, I mean, it's like, how do you define it? It's like, it's you know,
You know what this is.
I do, but like,
It's like a dungeon on steroids.
yeah, it's a dungeon on steroids where you get this massive amount of 25 people or whatever, and you run in there and you kill the big guys, and yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what's the boss then? The boss is the big guy you kill.
The big guy.
And so a raid is where you have a bunch of friends and you go kill the boss and you get loot. Loot being your prize, I guess, which could be gold or rupees or whatever your currency is in this system. And gear, of course.
Well, everybody does it for the drops.
You do it for the gear,
Right,
for the weapons, for the armor, for the random purple. Now I think it's legendary. The system has changed since I played. Okay, what about mob? What does mob stand for?
Bunch
like
of bad
one-
guys.
Well, it can be one bad guy though. It's kind of funny. Like, really, a mob
Right.
is a bad guy.
So I think it actually stands for something. I originally learned it in Lineage, not the MMO, but not Lineage 2, Lineage 1, like old school top down. And it was MOP, M-O-P, and I think we called it like machine operated player. And I think MOB actually stands for something, but I don't know what the B is. And I just know that it's machine operated something because of MOP, but I say mob.
I just learned something. I did not know that. Huh.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm not spreading untruth, but I'm pretty sure that's what I knew. Okay, how about NPC?
Non-player character.
Non-player character. These are the ones you get your quests from. And what's a quest?
Yeah.
Your
The
job.
thing to do.
The thing you do to get the
mission.
present at the end.
Yeah, your mission. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, your mission. And there's lots and lots of little ones all throughout the whole game.
So if you're not a gamer or if you've never played WoW specifically, I don't know if the other MMOs do this, but the quest givers, who are the NPCs in whatever area you're in, they have a gold exclamation point over their heads. That lets you know that they have something that you can do. And when you accept their quest, it turns silver. And then when you're done with it and you can turn it in, it turns gold, ? And then you turn it in and then it's gone. So sometimes you'll see people with hats on. They're black and they have a gold exclamation point. We actually have one of those. We used to take our guild to Renaissance Festival in Texas, to the big one out in Plantersville. And I think we did it 3 or 4 years in a row. And one of the years we had this like prize giveaway for the guildies. And my husband would wear one of those quest giver hats, and you would come in like technically right click him, like you would touch him with your right hand. And then he would give you a quest.
Really?
So awesome.
That's funny. Golly, that's fun.
It's ridiculous, right? And people would be like laughing as they did it, or like laughing at us as other people did it, because it's this ridiculous thing. And the quest is something like, go get me a beer, right?
Perfect quest.
Anyway, fun times. Okay, we talked about loot. What about mount? What's the mount?
Well, I know what it is in a romance.
Oh, that's a different angle. Hopefully that's not the same. That could be interesting.
Yeah, it's your
It's a
ride,
vehicle.
and
It's
everything from a seahorse, which we were talking about earlier, to a griffin that flies or a horse.
I used to have dreams about flying from, and this is going back to the original open beta. I would have dreams about flying from that Teldrassil. Is that where the Night Elf starter area is? Yeah, yep. Teldrassil to Darkshore, and there was that hippogriff, I think, is what you flew over on. And I would have literally dreams about flying on that thing. I mean,
I did too.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was weird, but it was really like when it first came out, it was so magical. It was just like, and it felt so real that
I was obsessed with World of Warcraft, and this is another topic, is little later down, but I had to stop playing because it literally took over my life. Like I would play it 6 to 7 hours a day after going to work. And then it just became this like rat race of, keep up with the gear, keep up with the raids, got to do your grinding for consumables. Oh my God, I'm behind. My damage is 1% behind. I'm not going to make the roster. I mean, it just took over my life.
Yep. That's why I don't play anymore right now.
Which is why it was so freeing when I could log in last night and just play a baby level 1 human male paladin, barf in my mouth.
Named Rubak.
And just kill easy things. I had 2 spells and they both did damage. I mean, it was easy.
Yeah, see, I could do that. That might be fun.
Nice.
I asked, my husband came over while I was doing it, and I smile because he's been trying to get me to play games again for a long time. He still raids and wow, he's kept up with it, and he plays other games. And he's been trying to get me to play with him for a long time. And I'm like, no, I don't have time. I'm just too busy. I have too much going on. Also, I want my life. I like my life. I like reading books. And if I start playing MMOs again, I will lose myself. And so he came in and I like kind of grinned at him and I pointed at my screen and he said, what? And I said, look what I'm playing. He said, oh, you installed WoW? I said, yeah, because it's a new laptop. I said, yeah, but look what character it is. And he said, is that a human? I said, yeah, it's a human paladin, a male paladin. And he said, I can't even look at you right now. And he walked away.
He doesn't get it. You need it to be freed.
And I was like, but no, it's named after a character. He said, no, honey. That's like the worst thing. That's my antithesis in WoW is the male human paladin. Seriously, I can't even look at you. Just because we played Horde.
We hate paladins because it seems like, especially in WoW, that so many of the big quests will drop loot, outfits, armor that can only be used by paladins or weapons that can only be used by paladins. Mm-hmm. And so it's always something like fantastic that none of us could use. So,
yeah.
That's true. I think it's gotten a little bit better, at least in WoW. But yeah, in the older days, it was frustrating, especially if you're in like Molten Core and you're Horde and you don't have paladins, you only have shamans and they're dropping paladin loot. And what are you supposed to do with that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Stinking paladins.
I know, and they're one-click bubbles. Come on.
The paladin bubble.
Bubble. Save you from anything. Worse is when
bubble me.
Bubble and hearth in the middle of PvP. Like, seriously.
Well, my husband would love to do that just to flick shit at people because when somebody's bubbled, they also can't do anything.
That's true. Yeah.
So he would just be doing it to flick shit at somebody and be like, and then he'd bubble them right when they were like needing to do something important.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So he would do it to a friendly? Oh, yes. That's funny.
Oh, yeah. He would, yes. And so, we'd be playing and, and nothing serious because, of course, he would never do it during a raid or something. But, his favorite character is paladins. He plays human paladins. He loves them.
He is the human male paladin.
He is the human male paladin, which is probably why Ruback, when you read the Merman's Quest, felt a little paladinish maybe to you in that because that's my love.
Oh, I totally got that. I thought that was a really cool, I'm like, I don't know why I had this sudden desire to play a paladin. I'm going to go play WoW and name it Ruback.
I'll have to tell him. He'll be delighted.
I'll send you the screenshot.
Yes, I will show him. He'll be delighted.
Where are we on the list? Okay, WTB, WTS.
Willing to buy, willing to sell.
Or want to buy, want to sell. Yeah, so that's like trade channel, auction house kind of stuff.
I forgot about that.
What's a talent?
You get awarded those at regular intervals as you make levels, right?
You get points.
Oh, wow. Yeah, points to spend on special things that you can do, your character can do.
Yeah, like specializations, spell specializations or ability specializations.
Yeah, they've rejiggered that since Legion. I'm not sure exactly how it all works, but the talent trees are different now. I don't know if I think they might not even have talent trees anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, they're a little more balanced now because previously if you wanted to get to a specific thing, you had to go down a certain piece of a tree, branch of a tree, which wasn't always the things you wanted. Yeah. And now they took all the similar things from those trees and they put them in levels. So you have to choose one from each level as you go down and you can do it however you want, which I actually like. It makes you make choices, but they're smarter ones.
They nerfed a lot of the big powers.
See, now you're making me want to play again. I hated having to choose one path, and then be stuck in it and wish that I could get something, one of the other trees.
But it does make it so you can't there's certain things you can't get both of. So before you could go down both paths and just sacrifice the top level talent. You can't do that anymore.
Ah, gotcha.
Okay, what's a res?
If you die, you want to be rezzed. Yeah.
Resurrect. Yeah, wouldn't it be great to have that in real life?
Yeah, that's what I said. Playing D&D, it would be permanent, unless you had a priest with you. I never wanted to die.
Yes. Yeah. Dying is no fun because the death run sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when your ghost can, like, if you go the wrong way or you fall off a cliff or something as a ghost, you get sent back to the graveyard and you got to make the run again. It's not
Yeah.
fun.
Well, I had when I first started playing and we would be doing those instances, the saying that we always would joke about was you never know an instance until you've died and have to run back because you really learn your way there.
You do. And get, like, Wailing Caverns. Wailing Caverns was the hardest one to navigate. Oh my God. The death run was terrible.
Yeah. It was horrible.
Or if you died in Thousand Needles, you had to run from the crossroads.
Oh God, I hate Thousand Needles.
But now it's flooded, so you can, if you're a druid, you can swim through it.
Yeah, it's better post Cataclysm. It's fun now, but it was just a miserable before.
Yeah.
It was. I agree. Although I do kind of miss the salt flats, but I think it's really cool that you can dive down under the water now where there's like a pirate party boat or whatever. You can go down under the water and see the old like wreckage of the salt flats down there, which is
That's
fun.
pretty cool.
The lore we're spending a lot of time talking about WoW. We are going to talk about other games, but I think it's such an easy thing to talk about because it's been such a universal success. Most people know what World of Warcraft is, that it's a game, even if they don't know anything else about it. And if you were to say some other game name, you might not get that same recognition. So I think it's the easiest thing to talk about if you want to talk about the dynamics of gaming, even if we're getting a little bit into the details here. But when you spend so much of your life playing one of these games, you really live in the game. And that's like things like Second Life. There is a book, there's a book I'm going to recommend. If your listeners wait till the end of the podcast, there will be, some book recommendations from me as well as the other authors with Tamsin and Viv here about what you could read for gamers in romance books. So we're going to give you some suggestions on that. But one of them, that inspired this podcast was, Ronnie Lauren's, Loving You Easy. And it's based in like a Second Life type game. So people live their lives in the game, even though they have normal lives. It's not like, they get in a pod and they create, they physically control a character. No, it's actually a game. But, I love the idea of a world that you can live in, right? So it's not you just like logging on to, kill some boss guy in some dungeon. It's you logging on because you want to go sit in the cyber cafe and chat with your friends and admire your new cyber sneakers. That's like a whole other thing. Mm-hmm. And of course this game in this novel has sexy parts because it's a romance novel and, that's what we do in romance novels. Okay. I'm going to go just to skip down this list a little bit. Hot and Dot are ones that I think people might have heard and not realized. So what are Hot and Dot?
Damage over time, and we usually use yeah.
What did you use?
Heals over time. Area of effect, damage over time, damage per second, DPS.
Yes, and AOE area of effect.
Yep.
There's a great video from the old WoW days, the Onyxia throw dots video. Have you guys seen that?
No.
Oh my God. You must watch this.
Really? I loved Onyxia.
This was the original Onyxia fight where you had the whelp. This is like the 3 stages and there's the whelplings and this, it's a voiceover of a raid leader just destroying his raid, basically. Like he's very angry with his raiders, very not happy about their performance, and the things he says are just. He has a French accent too. I think it's just really funny. And somebody took this audio and they made a video of it, and the video is like a slideshow. And whenever he says whelps, it shows a picture of Orlando Bloom's face. And it's like, whelps, many whelps. And there's like a bunch of different pictures of Orlando. And then he's like, throw dots, more dots, throw more dots. And it shows a little stick figure throwing a little bunch of dots and more dots and more dots. And I actually had a t-shirt at one point that said, throw more dots.
That's hilarious.
It's like the little inside jokes, like in like the Leroy Jenkins joke. A lot of people know of Leroy Jenkins, even if they don't know what that video originally was. Which, and of course, the legend was it real or was it staged? I think it was staged. But you can I can say to my husband, repeating, of course. And he's like, ha ha ha, repeating, of course, because it's the Leroy Jenkins joke,
Yeah.
It's a verb too, like, when we're planning something, or we could just Leroy Jenkins it. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, it's a verb now.
Yeah. I have a T-shirt that says "I'll sheep the one on the left," and I get asked about that a lot. What does that mean?
Yeah.
I love that.
That's great.
That, the Warcraft movie was not that good, I didn't think. But the mage aspect was one of my favorites because there was so many fun little like Easter eggs for people who played the games. And when it says something like, he says something like, it only works on the simple-minded, because that's what the tooltip actually said on the sheep spell. Only works on the simple-minded. The best. Okay, so one more little one, and then we're going to move to a different topic. Tell. Hello.
You want to do this one, right?
It's been too long since I played. I can't remember. Like, I know that I've heard it, but I can't remember what it is.
It's a whisper.
So like whisper?
Whisper, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, a whisper.
So
That's right.
and this is me, I guess, showing my gaming age, because I still use things like camp. Because way back, I don't even know when they discontinued or if it's still active. If you were out in the wilds and you built a campfire, you could do /camp to exit your character, and you could get you could accumulate rested experience at a half rate because you were, quote, camping and resting. And so I still exit the game using /camp. Most people don't do that, I don't think. But /tell is like /t or like /w in Whisper in some ways. But the reason I brought that up is because that's where my blog name came from. So my blog name is GraveTells, all one word, GraveTells. And the original tagline for the blog was /tells, TELLS, like you're telling someone something in a game, /tells of Grave Tales, TALES, which became GraveTells, which nobody gets, even if I explain it. And I can't change it. So I'm stuck with this weird name that at least it's different.
Right.
But people always put a space. It's always Grave/Tells, which is really bizarre. Okay. Games that totally addicted us. We're going to talk about that as soon as we get back from this commercial break from our sponsor. Today's episode of the GraveTells Romance Podcast is sponsored by Heretic Games. If you live in the San Francisco Bay Area, take a trip over to San Bruno and check out Heretic's fantastic in-store selection of board and card games, or hit up one of their in-store gaming sessions. Something exciting is always going on at Heretic Games, so check out the online event schedule. You can also drop in or just reserve a table by calling 650-204-0554. And if you don't live in the Bay Area, you can visit them online at www.heretic-games.com, where you can shop the web store and get all your favorite games shipped right to you. Heretic Games is giving away the card game Pixel Tactics Deluxe to one lucky local listener on today's podcast. Pixel Tactics is a head-to-head game of tactical combat for 2 players. This giveaway is a $30 value. To enter to win, visit GraveTells.com and navigate to the Episode 4 podcast page. You can find the podcast episode from the podcast menu option in the top navigation or on the left sidebar of the homepage at GraveTells.com. GraveTells.com. You can also navigate straight to the giveaway widget at bit.ly/GTPwin4. That's bit.ly/GTPWIN and the number 4. Just fill out the prize widget to enter. If you win, you must pick up your prize at Heretic Games in San Bruno in person. So this contest is ideal for listeners who live in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, you're going to need a secret code when you fill out that prize widget, and that code is Gamer Girls Rule. This contest will close on Wednesday, October 11th, 2017, and no entries will be accepted after 9 p.m. Pacific Time. Thank you to Heretic Games for sponsoring this prize, and good luck to all of you listeners. And now, back to the GraveTells Romance Podcast, Episode 4, Gamer Girls in Romance. Welcome back. We are now talking about games that totally addicted us and we had to quit. Because there have totally been some. Like WoW, which we already talked about. So we're not going to talk about WoW anymore. We're mostly done. We might reference it because we played it so often, but we want to talk some other games. I tweeted recently about SimCity Build It. Vivien, I think you responded to my tweet saying something about paging through the global market. Girl, I feel you. Oh my God.
All those phone games are like that, though. They have this like one thing that you need, and everybody needs it, and so you get to this point of you just kind of sit there paging through. Heyday is like that, and oh gosh, what are the other ones? I don't know how many of those I've played that I just get to that point where I just need that one thing. Anyway.
Yes. And the thing about SimCity and specifically the Build It mobile game is that if you're looking at the global market and you're trying to find that one thing, you can't search for it and you can't reload at will. You have to wait 30 seconds for the thing to refresh. So you may or may not find what you're looking for. You could refresh a million times. You might not find what you're looking for. And it's the most frustrating thing ever. That's probably the reason I quit the game. Like, there's a couple dynamics that are like, if they would just fix the one thing. But if they fix the one thing, then what else would change, right? How would the experience change? Game mechanics are so complicated that I just, as players, we don't really have insight into that.
Yep.
Tamsin, did you play SimCity as well?
No, I've looked over my daughter's shoulder while she plays it because she loves it. But no, I've never played it.
So what's your addiction?
Well, WoW was a big one, but then Star Wars was one that I played for a bit and then had to quit because, it's all about the storylines. I love the storylines. Yeah. And then I need to find out what happens in the alternate character storylines. So you build a new character, you have to play that one. And, always worried that you're going to miss stuff. And I think they hook you that way on purpose. They want you to keep paying that monthly fee.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Actually, Star Wars: The Old Republic has gone free to play, and so you can play, I think, all the way through. I don't think there's a cutoff level anymore. The only thing is that some perks, like being able to show the character's head without a helm on and things like that, you have to pay for that with cartel coins, and you can either micropayment those or you can subscribe and you get a whole bunch of cartel coins. So it's a nice model. They've also reduced the number of servers, and so it's kind of a more intimate kind of playscape now.
So it's more populated. You don't feel like you're kind of by yourself.
Exactly.
That's nice. To a degree, that's nice. When you get too many people, then, say you have a computer that's on the lower end, you can't even handle everything going on in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the respawns, you're sitting there waiting, and then somebody else jumps in, and you're like, I've been waiting a half an hour. And,
Griefers.
Sorry. Yeah.
Griefers.
Yep.
Griefers.
Yep. That's right.
Campers are the worst. Camping is when it's a PvP player versus player area, meaning you can kill each other, not just the mobs. And you bring in a higher level. Let's say the level cap is at 120, and you bring in a level 120 to kill a level 5 over and over. Obviously, the 120 is going to win that every time. And every time the level 5 resurrects and comes back to his buddy, the 120 one-shots him. Yeah. And it's not very fun at all. It's fun. I mean, it's kind of fun if you're the person who's doing the killing, but realistically, how long is that fun for you? Like, what kind of god complex do you need, right? Why do you do this? Let people play.
Yeah, well, because that little level 5 is just like, fine, I'm quitting and going home. Turns off their computer. So
yeah, exactly. You quit the game because it's not fun for you anymore. Or the alternative is you get on your main.
Yeah,
I'll go get my main, and you come to
I'll go get my main. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Let me go get my main.
Yeah. All right. So, what about Mass Effect? Do you guys play that?
Yes, I've played all of those. They're addictive too because they have the whole romance aspect in there, and you're like, all right, which one am I going to romance?
Okay,
I better play a boy this time. Yeah,
it's Bioware again.
It's Bioware again.
Bioware likes the romance plot. Yeah,
they do.
Yep.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about this because I haven't played Mass Effect.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi one. So, you get a spaceship and you're tootling around and fighting the evil Reapers that want to come in and kill all life, and I mean, and so there's even aliens on there that you can romance. Like Garrus is an alien, and he's creepy, bug-like looking or whatever. But he was my daughter's favorite character to romance because he was just like really cool.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's different. It's definitely different.
it's very sci-fi romance, but a little outside, I think, where we're at in the romance genre with sci-fi. I don't know that readers would be okay with a bug character hero being the romantic hero.
Boy, I don't know. Have you read some of Amanda Milo's stuff?
I have not. No.
It's pretty big right now, and it's very alien. Like, very, very alien.
So
you should try it.
How alien are we talking here?
Like, really alien. Like, big-nosed and horns and a tail and, yeah.
Are they humanoid?
Well, her rescued by an alien is humanoid, and I haven't read the next one yet, but she's got other aliens in it that are side characters towards the end that are not very humanoid, that are still like in love with the human women, and I'm not entirely sure how that works out.
All right.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but her world building is pretty fantastic.
Okay. You know that I love sci-fi. Just in general, I like sci-fi and fantasy. They're two different things with a lot of crossover. But when you add the romance aspect into sci-fi, it gets really fun. Like, really fun. In fact, Vivien writes, I'm going to call it cyberpunk, because I don't know how else to describe what you write. It's got some sci-fi. It's kind of futuristic, meaning it's like, 20 or 40 years in the future in the Earth that we live on, but a slightly different history. So there's sort of like, like people have all these implants and they're part bionic and it's normal. Like that's just normal, like sort of like Tron, I guess. And it's such a cool world because it's also historical a little bit. So like you make a lot of mentions of like crinoline, right? Like the crinoline skirt, which is kind of Wild Westy. Like that's what I associate it with. Anyway, so and the way the characters speak, a lot of the accents are very Southern and like there's like heavy Texas accents, and it's just this super cool, like almost sci-fi but not quite sci-fi, almost urban fantasy but not quite urban fantasy. I can't place this. I just call it cyberpunk, but it's really fun.
Yeah, I think I pitched it as a cyberpunk romance, but a lot of people don't know what cyberpunk is anymore because I'm old and I read a lot of Bruce Sterling back in the day. So, so it does have that sort of near future. There's a lot of familiar stuff. It's so in that sense, it's a lot like urban fantasy, but there's no fantasy. There are no vampires, witches, elves, fairies, none of that. It's all completely science. So take your favorite urban fantasy and replace all of the magic with known science.
I love that.
I think that's part of what really appealed to me about it was the science aspect. Although, to be honest, I can't follow all the science. So I don't even know if it's real science, but I can't follow all of it. But it sounds real. And so when I'm reading along, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I want that. I want little sense pads on my fingertips. Imagine what you could do with that. I mean, seriously, imagine what you could do with that. Seriously. That'd be fun. So, just cool things like Heron. Is that how you say his name? Heron?
Yeah.
Heron? I pronounce things horribly. Anyway, is it Heron Farad?
Yes.
Okay, yay, I got it right. My brain was right this time with both of your characters. I feel so good. Yeah, even though he's mostly machine, he's very human, and I love the human feeling of it. It like the way he can plug in, like literally physically plug into a network, plug his head into a network. How cool is that? Like what? Love. Control ships with his brain, just with his brain. It's so cool. Anyway, so that's a little bit outside sci-fi romance, but we were talking about the romance aspect of some of these sci-fi sort of games, like the Bioware games.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other aspects of romance in games that we haven't touched on? Like actual games, not books, because that's a whole different thing.
Right. So role-playing games often have the go save the princess thing, right? And back in the day, there were the Leisure Suit Larrys and things like that. So,
oh yeah. I don't know if I'd call that romance as much,
right?
As, yeah.
So it was like dude flavored romance or something. But I think.
Oh my god!
I think BioWare is really pushing the envelope of making stories that are also romantic or have an option to play it as romantic. I don't really know of anybody else game company wise that is doing that on purpose. Now you can make romances in things like the Sims franchise. I've been playing Sims games since they came out, but obviously you can romance characters in the Sims games, but it's not there's no story there. You can make up your own story because it's mostly a sandbox kind of game. But the best options for story-driven romance are Bioware games, and I think my favorite is Dragon Age.
Yeah, Dragon Age is great.
That's another one I haven't played, so I can't comment on. So there's romance in Dragon Age too?
Yes.
Also not to
Oh,
the
yes.
second game. Okay. Sorry.
Yes, actually in all of them, yeah. And also, some people have asked me if I was playing Destiny, which is a new game that came out recently, and I have not played it yet. But as I understand it, a lot of people who, like me, kind of like that very storytelling character, invest in the character and the character's story, seem to like that game. So I don't know. I'll have to check it out.
I'm writing the name down right now.
What was that game a while back? There was this, it was in the news. It was such a big deal. There was a massive space battle and millions of dollars of equipment was lost in this battle. Apparently the game is very realistic. Like the amount of time it takes you to build a ship or to gain a resource is like real time. So when people went to these battles and destroyed entire fleets of these ships they had created, it was devastating to them. Do you guys remember what this game was?
Was that Eve Online?
Oh, it was Eve. That's right.
Oh,
Yeah, I played that a tiny bit for a little bit, but what frustrated me about it, part of it was that it took so long
Yeah.
to build up anything. And then as soon as some meanie would come in and like destroy your tiny little ship, it was, like the 120 standing over the level 5 kind of
right.
deal. Because I would end up in the wrong place and then I'd be like, I quit, I'm going home.
Well, that was like in the battle days of MMOs where if you died, you lost experience. Or dropped items. Like you had these, like, okay, the original lineage, way back. You could enchant items to make them more powerful. But for every time you enchanted it, the higher you got, the greater the chance that you would destroy the item during the enchant. So
I remember
to
that.
get like a +6, sorcerer book offhand, the chance of getting that to +6 was something like 2%, like very low. And to get the drop in the first place was like a 0.2%. I mean, it was this like horrible process to become powerful. You had to take all these chances. If you died, you could have dropped this +6 book that you sweated over for 2 years, and then somebody else can go pick it up, or a monster comes by and eats it, and then somebody kills the monster and gets the book for free. So I don't miss the days when you lost experience, because I also killed my teammates doing that too. And Lineage, if you're I think the lesson here is don't play with Sue if there's friendly fire on. We were
back
defending
in
Ultima. I just don't. I just
back
get
in Ultima Online days. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, back in Ultima Online days, I would be out there doing something, and there'd be like a whole group of people just hovering, waiting for me to die because you could pick up somebody else's stuff.
Oh, that's the
While
worst.
they were. Yeah.
Ouch.
Oh,
They might have fixed that out. That might have been during the beta, but it was also
like
also in
vultures.
Ultima Online. I took my clothes off, my character, to change clothes, and a guard came out and killed me because there were decency laws.
Because there were decency laws. Oh my God.
It
I
was
thought you were
weird.
going to say someone stole your clothes. That's way worse.
Yeah, that's way worse. Decency laws. Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
Because they
Decency
didn't
laws.
really the game masters didn't really know how to control people who were going to try to break their game, right? So they didn't want a whole bunch of naked people running through town. Because
So no goat showers, huh?
right.
Oh, that is good times. That's a great story. Okay, let's talk about board games, because some people don't play electronic games, and that's totally fine because most of our lives are electronic. I mean, can you name any part of a day that you're not sleeping, and maybe even when you're sleeping, when you don't have your phone in your hand or on your person or within like 2 feet of you? Like, I can't. It's always with me. So,
Oh dear.
right. So like you see electronic leash, it's always there. So board games are this way of still engaging your brain in that gaming aspect, exercising that problem solving competitive part of your mind without having to be staring at a screen or hunched over a screen or something like that. So let's talk about some board games that we like. We talked about D&D already, so we won't talk too much about that. It's also pretty complicated as far as board games go. But there are some easier ones that you can just pick up and play with people within a few minutes. And one of my favorite is called Escape. I think it's called Escape with an exclamation point. And it's very Indiana Jones-like. So it's basically, the idea is that you're exploring a cave and there's a bunch of, like Indiana Jones, there's a bunch of like traps. So there's jinxes and there's keys, there's locked rooms. You get locked in, you have to find a key to get out. There's like combinations you have to work together to, be able to enter the next room. And the idea is that you have a 10-minute time limit. So there's actually this really creepy music that lasts 10 minutes and it has 3 gongs and the gongs are evenly spaced. So when you get to the first gong, you got about 6.5 minutes left. When you get to the second gong, you got about 3 minutes left. And the idea is you have to get out of the dungeon before the last gong sounds because the whole thing caves in. It is it's chaos because everybody's playing at the same time. It's not turn-based. It's real time, everybody at the same time. So you all have your own little dice and you're rolling constantly trying to do things. So like if I'm in a room with somebody and I want to go to a different room, then I have to roll a certain thing. But if I roll a certain thing, I might jinx myself. Then I have to get somebody else to unjinx me by rolling a certain thing on theirs, which might jinx them, right? So if there's nobody in your room, then you have to call out to get somebody to come get you, which means they have to roll certain things to get to you. And to open a room, you have to roll. I mean, it's like everything is dice dependent, which of course is its own mechanic. And it's just the most chaotic, loud, ridiculous thing I've ever played. And it's so much fun. And you know what? Nobody cares about the rules. Like you just sort of like, there's nobody policing because how can you? It's so chaotic. And you get to the point where you just don't care. You just want to get out of the dungeon. So check that out if you guys get a chance.
Huh. I have a friend that I think would really love it.
My family is absolutely obsessed with Zombicide right now, which is a board game, and you're survivors, and you have to kill zombies to get from one side of the board to the next, right? And there's just nothing more charming for a parent than to hear your child say, "All right, I'm going to kill that 47 zombies with a Molotov cocktail." Oh, that's so nice, honey.
We trained them right.
Yeah. Or, yay, I got the chainsaw.
Oh, God.
You don't want to hear your kids say that.
That's a scary thing to hear, actually.
Right.
What about you, Tamsin? Do you have a favorite board game?
We haven't played board games in just such a long time because we had switched to D&D with the kids, and then we switched to computer games because then nobody had to DM and everybody could play. Yeah. So, other than like playing Risk once in a while at Christmas or something like that, no.
Oh, you play Risk with your friends? Oh, you're brave.
I have friends who really, really, really like strategy. I'm not good at it, so basically I play with them just so that they can feel good about themselves by winning. I'm not any good at it, but yeah.
So Risk is sort of like Munchkin to me. And I'm not a person you want to play Munchkin with because it brings out the evil witch in me. I don't know what it is about this game, but I become the most unpleasant, competitive, sarcastic, bitchy bitch ever to live. Like, don't attack me, I will take you down, right? Everybody's ganging up on me. I don't know what it is about Munchkin, but I just cannot. So basically in Munchkin, it's kind of almost a role-playing game in some way. You're given a character, and you're given certain aspects about the character. And there's like all these versions. So there's like the vampire version and the zombie version and I don't even know. There's so many of them. But
Space Munchkin.
There's a bunnies one, evil bunnies one, I think.
princess one. There's Princess
So
Munchkin.
sounds like you played Munchkin.
There's an Evil
I think
Bunnies
there's
one.
an Evil Bunnies one.
Oh my gosh, I have to
I
look
could be
this
making that
up.
up. So
That's hilarious.
if there's not, there should be, because that's very Buffy.
Yeah.
The super secret to the original Munchkin is to get the kneecaps of Allure, which compels everyone else they have to help you, whether they want to or not. And pretty much you get the kneecaps of Allure and you win the game.
Awesome. I'll keep
It's
that
the
in mind
Paladin
if I
bubble.
play.
It's the I win button.
Yeah, right? Bubble me! I'm going in!
So Exploding Kittens is a little bit like Munchkin, a little bit like Old Maid. Did you guys remember the hype when this game first released? It was a Kickstarter, I think.
Was it?
I think so, because they had special...
Is it by the Oatmeal?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
comic? Yeah, I read the Oatmeal and then that's how I found out about it.
Yeah, I think it was a Kickstarter because my husband cared about. I'm not as much into card and board games as other people. I like thinking, strategy, problem solving games like Cranium, which is a board game. But my husband was really excited about this, and I think it's because they marketed it so well, and it's such a catchy. I mean, come on, Exploding Kittens. Of course, you want to check out what that is,
Right.
But I think they offered like special things for backers. So like when you open the box, it meows at you. There's a not safe for work deck. And of course you don't want to get the Exploding Kitten because it blows you up. But aside from its name, it's a rather tame game compared to some of the other ones like Gloom. Have you guys played Gloom?
I have not.
No.
So Gloom, you actually try to kill your family. That is the whole point of Gloom. It's very dark. So you even the cards are fancy. The cards are clear. So they have like different things in different locations on the card. So when you lay them on top of each other, they make a stack, which is kind of cool. But you're the head of a family and you get all the family cards and it's a storytelling game. So as authors, you guys might actually like this one. The idea is that you kill your family before anybody else kills their families. And they're trying to help your family stay alive and you're trying to help their family stay alive. So while you're doing this, you create a narrative and you tell a story about how the family member dies and you have to connect them all together. The story really doesn't mean anything. You're not scored on the story, but it's a fun way to be creative. It's like the anti-game. To win, you have to lose.
Wow.
So it could be fun for an author
Oh.
party.
Like Cards Against Humanity. Very fun for authors.
Oh, I have played that. Yeah, that's so inappropriate.
Very inappropriate. Absolutely.
It's great to play with somebody you know really well because you could almost always get that person's card. It's like the adult version of Apples to Apples.
Yeah, but in a disgusting way. Like you always feel dirty, and that's the point of the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I do find that I have a kind of an emotional limit on Cards Against Humanity. There's just a point where I'm just like, I don't care. I don't want to do this anymore. That's enough snark for today.
There's a game called Here Kitty Kitty that I play with my kids and their grandmothers, and it was unexpected how invested the grandmothers would get. The game is you adopt kitties from the neighborhood and you put them in your little house, but then you can steal someone else's kitties. And my mother-in-law got like really upset when we stole her orange kitties because she needed her orange. And it was so cute and sad and.
Oh, that's really sad. I would be very sad if someone stole my cats too. Jeez. It's an odd idea for a game too. You know?
It is, but it's really simple rules, so it's easy for little kids to play. We played it when the girls were younger, and it has these cute little plastic kitties, and they come in. There's black ones and gray ones and orange ones and white ones, and you get really attached to your little plastic kitties.
Yeah, if there are plastic kitties involved, I could see kids in particular being. Yeah.
So, speaking of families and gaming, do you find value in family time with games? It sounds like you guys both tend to do things with your families and significant others. Do you feel it's a good social experience for your kids? Like, what do you think they get the most out of from growing up in gaming environments like that?
Oh wow. My kids they have just grown up in games. That's just all around them. They've been great gamers since infancy. So they don't really know a world without games.
Which is the best way, of course.
I guess. I mean, they were playing World of Warcraft when they were like 6 years old, and they just log in and change their characters' clothes over and over and over again.
Oh my god.
And we joked that we were going to try to like get them jobs as play testers because they could totally, use the game in a way that nobody else is going to use it.
Yeah. And then when they would happen to like join a group or something, and I'm like, they have no idea they're playing with a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, I feel really bad for them, but I'm kind of going to watch because it's funny.
Exactly.
Or like, the child is saying nothing because either they can't type and the people are like, why aren't you talking? What's wrong with you? Slash kick.
Yep. And then the kid starts dancing or something. It's like, well, I don't know.
Yes. Although I think there's built-in voice in WoW now, so some kids actually do get on that. And when I hear a young voice, I'm like, oh no, I can't be in a group with you. We can't strategize.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we used to try to encourage it, like kids. So you have to learn to type and spell to play this game. You want to play the grown-up game, you have to, try to encourage those skills. It didn't work. They just wanted to run around and kill things.
Well,
and
of
change their
course.
clothes.
That's basically what we do, right? We just do it with words.
Yeah, I guess so. But, for me, living in Alaska, games like WoW and stuff where you do have the in-game voice, or you can get on Ventrilo or, something like that. It's for a long time, it was a really nice way for us to keep connected to family outside of Alaska, because we've got, family across the whole nation. And so it allowed us to keep in touch with cousins and, friends and stuff that had moved away.
Yeah, we do that too. Keep up with friends who live on the other side of the country now, but we hook up once a week in whatever game we're playing, and that's how we keep in touch.
Right. You're just running around playing together, quote unquote, like you did when you were kids, but meanwhile you're visiting about everything else. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, gaming friendships are as real as in real life friendships. Like, you could meet your partner online. And those bonds are the same, whether they're through a game connection or through a physical connection, which sounds weird to people who haven't done it. But, I think of the places that I've been in games as real places. When I talk about Crossroads or Molten Core, these are places that I have physically been to, even though my body has not been there. So I dream of them. I have memory flashbacks of them as if they are real. And I know this sounds bizarre to somebody who's not a gamer, but it's part of your life. Your consciousness was in that atmosphere for whatever time, and all the people who spent time with you there's a bond there that you don't have. It's different than a bond you would have with somebody in person, say if you're playing a sport or something. And it's special. Yeah.
Well, I was reading an article a while back about, how the games kind of let you be a hero. They let you be your true self in ways that you can't be in real life.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, it lets you embrace getting to be the paladin, if you will, like my husband, wants to be that superpower that bubbles people. So it allows you, it lets Sue,
that's right. I get to AoE everybody.
Yeah.
Well, and like you said earlier, everybody wants to be a hero. Like when I asked in Star Wars, because one of the early complaints about Star Wars was there's so many Jedi. Everybody's a Jedi. It's not special anymore. But isn't that why we play the game? Because you want to be the hero of your own story. Just like with a romance, when a writer writes a story, they write it because there's something in them that has to come out. And that comes out in the form of a hero or a setting or a plot. And so in a game, like, you are the hero. And one of my favorite things to do is craft. I love to craft. I love to train pets. I'm a pet battler. So when I go into WoW, you're not going to find me in a raid. I'm done with that phase, right? I can't run the rat race, but I sure do love to go collect pets and train them up. It's just fun. I love to craft. I love to create armor sets and transmog things. I like the more creative side, not necessarily the warring, although being able to blow shit up also helps with tension.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah, definitely.
Although I like flower picking too.
Oh, yes.
I love, on Easter the last 2 or 3 years, there's been an event in WoW where you go around and collect eggs, Easter eggs, and you break them open and you get the chocolates out and you trade it in for, I don't know, all kinds of things. But I just love that little mini game because everybody comes to Goldshire, people who haven't been to Goldshire in years, and collect eggs, and it's it's ridiculous how much time I've spent doing that. But my kids will come and play. We'll all be looking for eggs together, and we don't have to actually go out in grass and sunshine and stuff.
Outside? What? What is this outside? Do I get dirty out there?
It's dangerous
It
outside
is.
these days. Yeah.
Dangerous and dirty outside. Stay inside and play a game.
Right.
So let's touch briefly on women in gaming. I think women have come a long way in the last 5 or 10 years. In fact, there are women shoutcasters now for some of Here's the Storm, I believe. And I love that. I think that is awesome. I'm curious what your perspectives are as a female in gaming. When people find out that who you are, that you're a woman, do they treat you differently today, in today's world? Do they treat you differently 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Have you seen a progression? Do you feel awkward when people find out? What is your experience with that?
Well, I've been in gaming for a really long time. Before there were MMOs, I went to gaming conventions. I went to NanCon 88 in Houston in the early 90s, late 80s. And I remember one of them I went to, there were 3 females at this whole convention. I was one of them. And so I gravitated to the other 2. One of them was somebody I knew, and the other girl, we became friends, and then we realized sometime later that her mother was dating my father-in-law. So it's just, right, it's just like the nerdy girls would all sort of gravitate toward each other, right? And that's what gaming society was like in the 90s, right? For a female. But I went to a gaming convention 3 years ago, and it's so different now. There were so many women and girls, and they were owning the space, and they were like, yeah, we belong here. Of course we do. And they weren't being ogled, and a lot of them were cosplaying, and they were it was just wonderful. I was so impressed with these young ladies because I didn't have that when I was their age, and I wanted it real bad.
Huh. Well, I mean, I'm probably going to date myself, but I first started computer gaming back on a Commodore 64.
Wow.
With, I don't know. Yeah. So
Way back.
way back. Yeah, I played Zork.
I love
Zork. Yep, got to do Zork. And I played Bard's Tale. And so, all through high school, I had a best friend, and we were both girls, but she would come over to my house every day after school, and we would take turns. One of us would run the controls, the other one would sit there with a piece of graph paper and map.
Yes.
As we went through that dungeon. And, so for me, I don't know that I've ever felt strange being female playing these games. It's just been part of what I do. I do wonder how much has changed in time simply because, as we mentioned earlier, some of these Bioware games that are bringing the romance into it, some of the relationship type stuff rather than just the hack and slash or, that kind of thing is appealing to more women because they want to capture more market share, of course.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So, they're trying, I think that there's maybe been an attempt to bring the other half of the population in to that.
I think
the new storylines.
Part of it too is just that millennials, or even not to use a specific generational tag, people who are younger today don't realize that there was more of a gap before. So to them, it's normal. Of course, they can own their space because why shouldn't they? Right? And I love that. I think that's fantastic. That says to me, we're on the way to gender equality in gaming. And maybe it's not as dire as some people might think.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I definitely see movement in a positive direction for women in a gaming space. And all kinds of gaming spaces. Because I used to go to E3, and I've seen kind of a progression there. And I've gone to PAX South, and there are lots of women there, even little girls, and that's really exciting. I don't know. It feels like it's moving in a good direction.
Yeah, I feel that too, and I'm really glad to see it. I think there's some games are starting to feel less male targeted, if that makes sense. They're starting to feel more gender neutral or even targeted toward women, which makes me happy, especially if it's not in a way that's exploitative, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So I'm really happy to see that. And then on the opposite hand, we have romance books, which are starting to incorporate gaming as a theme. And apparently there's more than I even knew, which makes me so happy, because I could like all of us can so identify with these characters who love gaming, and it's part of the core of who they are. And when you read a story like that, as the reader, you totally connect. You understand the language. You can actually have a conversation in this weird code, and you don't have to look it up what, FML means, right? Which is a gaming term, but it's appropriate sometimes. And there have been some great stories lately that not just gaming, but even expanding into the digital space. So people who are sort of like digital celebrities. And I think this is just the coolest idea. I love the fact that like influencers. So somebody's job is to talk to you about what you might like. And in a small way, that's what bloggers do, right? We say, hey, here's some books. I like them. I think you might like them too. And you follow the people who have interests that are similar to yours. But on an even larger scale are the people who are influencers over a larger market. So like Twitch streamers, they don't just play one game. They don't just post about it on the blog. They live stream. They play these games live, and you can interact with them. You can talk to them. You can ask them questions. You can actually play in the game with them, which is kind of how one of the books starts that sort of spawned this podcast. It's in a Cyberlove series by Megan Erickson and Santino Hassel, and I think it's called Strong Signal. And it's gay romance, which is my thing. I love gay romance. It's just the best. But one of them is a Twitch streamer, I guess. That's what he does. That's his only job. From subscriptions is how he makes his money. And he's playing an MMO. And there's another guy who's deployed overseas, and he plays the MMO as his downtime. And he's farming for some material in some dungeon, and it's a PK type world, so it's PvP. And the Twitch streamer kills him because they're trying to get the same resource. And so he's like, who is this guy who thinks he can kill me? He's too high level to be in here. He looks it up and he finds out, oh, he's Kai from the Twitch stream. And the more he talks to him, kind of gives him shit about killing him, and they start talking, and they create a relationship out of that. And that's the romance. The romance is between this soldier who's in Afghanistan, deployed, only plays because that's his escape, and this Twitch streamer who is like scared. He's agoraphobic. He's scared of the outside world. And it's just like such a cool concept that all the things that are happening around us now, those are part of a romance story too. Anything can be part of a romance story, which is what I love about romance.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. I'm going to have to go read that now.
Yeah, actually, you've kind of convinced me. Yeah.
Now, part of the series is about, they're not necessarily gaming. Some of them are like YouTube stars where they just they're inspirational and they have followers because they give good advice, or because they're dramatic. It's sort of like a soap opera or things like that. And those are fun too. They're not necessarily gamers, but it's still the same sort of digital celebrity space, which I just find fascinating.
I haven't really read any gaming books other than Ready Player One, which isn't a romance at all, but it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, there's a romantic subplot.
Yeah, a little bit, I suppose. But, that takes me clear back into, like I said, playing on the Commodore 64. Like, I remember that, playing Atari, playing all that stuff. So
I have read books with gamer characters, but the game wasn't the central tentpole of the story, right? So, Mary Mancusi's YA series, the Scorched series, Trinity Fox, who's the protagonist, the girl who raises the dragons. She's a big gamer, so in some of the sequences, she'll like log into her MMO so she can secretly like make plans with somebody, right? Because he'll log into, right? And they'll, and they can't get tracked that way or whatever, So that's part of who the character is, but it's not like the game because they're trying to save the dragons and that's the story. But, that and, Sarah Brooks, who's, she won the Prism a little while ago. She has a series called Geek Kink, and like in the first one, I haven't read the most recent one, came out in January, and I haven't read it yet. But in the first book in the series, the heroine is a complete geek, and she lives for a coffee and Halo, and it's a BDSM world, right? So like so this completely geeky chick hooks up with a barista who's I think he's a motorcycle guy. I don't know. He's they're total opposites, but it's a wonderful intersection of worlds, and I could relate to it because in both of those cases, having the protagonist be a girl or woman who games kind of gave me a connection point with the protagonist. Well, that was nice.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree that the book doesn't need to be about the game, because I think it would be kind of hard actually to have a book that was set in a game. And there may be one out there. I've never actually read one like that, but all the ones that I've read that have gaming characters that are heavily gaming themed are still about the connection between the characters. They just feature a game, and there's gaming atmosphere or lingo, or the way gamers tend to be more casual about things.
I had a book recommended to me recently that is in a kind of an up-and-coming subgenre called Lit RPG. I don't know if you've heard about this, but
no.
It is very much I think it was originally, I'm not sure exactly where it came from, but it's been popular in Japan and Russia, and it's sort of grown in popularity recently here. But it melds the real world and a game world in such a way that like the characters know that they're in a game. So it's basically like their avatars, I guess. And so they're completing game quests, but they have meat bodies and they're very self-aware of the meat world. So I'm really fascinated by that because I've read that kind of, I guess that was kind of going on in what's his name? I forget. Anyway, there was a big series in science fiction where everybody was like in the cloud, and so most of the action happened in the cloud. And I would imagine that this is going to be like that. So this book was recommended to me, and I haven't read it yet, so I can't like pass along the recommendation yet. But I'll let you know how it goes.
What's it called?
The genre is called Lit RPG.
Okay, Lit RPG. And what's the book called?
Well, the author is Aleron Kong, Aleron Kong, like King Kong. So, and he has like it's a whole series, and I forget what the title of the first one is, but
it reminds me, like I'm having flashes of this Bruce Willis movie. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Where there's they lay down in these like I don't know, machines where they can hook up to the network, and they control bodies when they're hooked in. So like you never have to actually go to work. You control your body, your clone, because it's safer. So you can control a body to do something for you.
Movie.
Oh, I've heard of it. I can't remember which one it is, but yeah.
That's what I had.
It was a great concept and kind of a forgettable movie.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the deal. Yeah.
Well, sort of like also like that movie that had. Oh, I just totally blanked. The guy who played Gladiator. Who played Gladiator?
Russell Crowe?
I think it had Russell Crowe, and it was where like there were convicts, and there were people who controlled them. Like they could get out of their sentence if they agreed to be part of a game, characters in a game, like a first-person shooter kind of game, and people controlled them. And he was like the best character because his controller was the best, and it turns out he was a scrawny little gamer kid. I think it was Russell Crowe. I could be totally wrong about that. My brain is a little bit scrambled. It's been a long week. So if I didn't write it down, it might not be factual. I'm sorry. Well, we have had a good almost hour and a half. You guys have been troopers hanging in there for so long. Thank you for chatting with me about gaming and romance and just having a good time for so long.
Oh, thanks for letting me chat about it. I love talking about this stuff.
Thank you for inviting me. It was really fun to talk gaming again. Now I'm gonna have to go play.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I kind of want to log back into WoW, and I don't know if I'm going to play the Paladin again because I'm kind of over my Goldshire fix.
Plus, your husband gives you the weird looks.
I don't know. I'm going to have to redeem myself and go back to Horde for a little while, and maybe not play a Paladin.
For the Horde.
For the Horde. That's right. So before we go, do you guys have any upcoming books that you would like to mention for readers to check out?
I have a book coming out in November, first week of November, called Perfect Gravity. It's the second in that cyberpunk romance world, and it's my favorite thing that I've ever written. I really like that book, so I really hope other people will like it too.
I am about halfway through it right now, and I'm really enjoying it. And I will say that Kellen, the main character, his voice is so rich. I love it. It gets this real. I'm from Lufkin, Texas, and Kellen is from Lufkin, Texas. I mean, what? Like, seriously? I literally texted Viv whenever I read that. I was like, "Are you kidding me? What?" Because how often does that happen? But it's if you like the first book, it's a lot like same story world, but different characters, different struggles. I think probably the same bad guy, but very cool. Very cool. I'm loving it. So definitely you guys check out Perfect Gravity comes out on what day?
November 7th.
Oh, so we have a little time. And Wanted and Wired is already out, and you can find that now online pretty much everywhere.
Yep.
By Vivien Jackson. And what's coming up for you, Tamsin?
Well, I'm actually writing a science fiction series right now too. I have a release date in November, but I don't have the actual day yet. And that one is gonna be alien romance. Like we were just talking, like, how alien do you get? Well, these guys are bronze-skinned guys with superpowers, not weirdly horned and tailed people. But anyway, I just can't go there. But they are aliens. And it's a lot of fun with evil corporations and, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. And it's a little bit of a break from the fantasy stuff that I did with the merman and the centaurs and stuff like that.
Are they tall aliens? Aliens are always tall.
Oh, yes.
What is it with like 7-foot aliens? I swear they're all tall.
Well, I mean, that's the alpha hero kind of thing, so they're like big barbarian looking guys with bronze skin that can, withstand anti-gravity and blah, blah, blah.
So is the story world set is like Earth part of the story world? Is it in Earth's future?
No, they're full on space pirates.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
I feel like space pirates might be another one of those little micro trends that are starting to come back now. I read another one recently that was about space pirates and mercenaries, and I thought this is just a really fun. And maybe it's because of Firefly.
I love Firefly. Yeah,
I'm a big brown coat, but also Killjoys.
Yes.
There's that. She's like a bounty hunter.
Yeah,
yeah,
requisition agent.
Yeah,
the rack. Although I really feel like that show may be jumping the shark a little bit. I really wish. Okay, I'm an editor, so it's really hard for me to watch a movie. There's like story crafting, right? So story crafting for movies is very similar to story crafting for books. And so when I watch a movie or a show, or in this case, shows over the course of a season, it's really hard for me to disengage my analytical brain and just sit back and be entertained. And so for Killjoys, I really wanted that the first season to be like the first half of the first season to be a whole season. They could have like pulled out the entire formation of the team and them being bounty hunters and like, really, really dive into the world. Like, what is the Quad and why did the RAC agents do what they do? And let us see the gritty side, some of the hard choices they have to make. But it moved really fast into that whole Six Hullen plotline. And while I like that plotline, I think it's really fun. I think it just happened too fast. And I'm kind of sad because I'm like, but I could have had a whole other season to watch. It's over too soon.
Actually for science fiction romance specifically, my favorite series ever is Farscape.
Yeah.
That that romance. I mean, and that is the through line for the whole series, and it just worked so beautifully. It was so angsty and dark and awesome.
Didn't those two of those actors end up on Stargate SG-1?
They did.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. They did a great job of putting them together and pulling them apart and developing the villains, like where you hated him, and then you slowly kind of started to empathize with him and then realize where he was coming from. And it was awesome. Yeah.
When someone makes a villain likable, when you like understand and you may not agree with him, but you can't hate him because you get why he did it. That's the best. That's my favorite kind of writing. When you take the villain and make him somebody the reader kind of wants to cheer for. Because then you have internal conflict. As a reader, I'm like, I kind of feel bad that I like this guy.
Yeah, definitely.
But I like this guy. I want him to have his own story.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to let you guys go. Get yourselves a nice stiff drink or maybe take a nap or whatever it is you need to do after an hour and a half of chatting. And I thank you so much for being my guest today. I've had such a blast talking about gaming and romance and random things with you ladies. And I am excited to see what's coming up for you in your books. I'm going to share all of those links on my podcast notes. So if you're listening to this on the GraveTells.com site, you can look in the post itself and you'll be able to see all the links for both Tamsin and Vivien. So you can check out their work. I'm going to put in a couple other links for books that we have also talked about. If you're watching on YouTube, I can't put as many links. They like to ban you for too many links. So I will put just a few in there. If you are listening on Spreaker, YouTube, anywhere you're listening, you can follow and you will get all of my future episodes automatically. So that's great. You can always check that out. I am on Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook at GraveTells, GraveTells. So come find me online. You're welcome to stalk me. I'd be happy to chat with you about gaming or romance. Tamsin, Vivien, you guys have anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Just thank you for having me. Yeah.
Ditto.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Until next time, read something sexy. That's it for GraveTells. Bye, everybody.